I'm delighted to be joined by Peter Bone, the MP for Wellingborough, someone who supported the Prime Minister last night. Peter, welcome to the programme. You've been in Parliament for 2 decades now. You've served under 5 different Conservative leaders. How did last night's vote feel in comparison to the previous leadership crises that we have seen?
Well, I thought there was a convincing win by the Prime Minister last night, and it seemed to me the only comparable thing probably was Mrs Thatcher when I wasn't an MP, when she resigned after winning a vote, and the Conservative Party suffered for the next 30 years because of that. So Boris had won, since Mrs Thatcher, the only convincing win in the general election has been by Boris Johnson. So the only people that should remove him and the Conservatives is the electorate at the general election. And I'm pleased that the majority, more significant majority of my colleagues agreed with that view last night.
And I suppose there is a crucial point here in that Margaret Thatcher, when she faced that vote of confidence, she was challenged, of course, by Michael Heseltine. She won the vote, but only 55% to 45%, not by that 15% majority to deny a second round. It went to a second ballot and her cabinet knifed her in the back. Boris Johnson won by an 18% margin last night, a larger margin than Margaret Thatcher for sure, and certainly he seems to have the support of his cabinet, but it's undeniable he won by a lesser margin than Theresa May did in 2018.
Yeah, I mean, in 2018, it's a different situation. Of course, Mrs May had led us into a general election where we'd gone backwards against Labour and Jeremy Corbyn. There'd been a national referendum on Brexit, and we voted for Brexit, but the Prime Minister, Mrs May, was not introducing Brexit. She was introducing Brexit in name only. She didn't actually resign, of course, over the vote. She resigned later on in her premiership when she couldn't get her a Brexit in name only through Parliament. That's what did her in, because she wasn't respecting the views of expressed by the people at a referendum. I think that there is a distinct difference between what happened last night and Theresa May's vote.
And I suppose that's the distinction between what is valued in this democracy, the voters, the people who elect the MPs, or the MPs. That's that classic question of, do we live in a representative democracy or one that is more direct? And I suppose that's one of the elements with regard to the discussion yesterday. However, it does seem, looking at various polls, looking at various by-elections, that the Prime Minister isn't best popular with the British public right now.
Well, we're mid-term, and my experience over the years is that in any government, whatever political colour, mid-term normally gets way behind in the polls, much more than the Conservatives are behind Labour at the moment. I think we're about 6 points behind on average. At mid-term, you'd expect the government to be about 20 points behind, but they often come back and then win at the general election. I mean, it was interesting when real votes were cast in the local elections a few weeks ago that in England, north of Watford, we were actually making gains against Labour. So Labour clearly not a government in waiting. The challenge for the party is clearly going to be, can we solve the economic crisis? If we can do that, and we can deal with the migrant crisis, and we continue to lead Europe's response to the dreadful war in Ukraine, we'll do very well in the next election. But it's a challenge for us, and we in government must, and the party must knuckle down and sort like that. That's what people on the doorstep in Wales.
And just finally, Peter Bone, because we don't have long left in this conversation, I do want to ask you, do you believe that the government is on the right track? This is a government that has U-turned a lot, that has raised taxes to their highest level in 72 years, that doesn't seem to have been particularly conservative on a number of issues. Does it need to change?
Well, that's what the challenge is for the Prime Minister government. I absolutely agree with you. We are taxing too much, and we should reverse that. I would have scrapped the NI increase. We know we're going to have an income tax cut, which is good, but that's what we'll be judged on. It's those issues. It won't be whether there was a Tupperware cake of given to the Prime Minister for 9 minutes. No, it's the real issues that will be decided upon. And the Prime Minister needs to take note of what you've just said and to deal with those issues. And let's get taxation down.
Well, Peter Bone, thank you so much for joining us this morning on The Briefing. Really appreciate your time and your perspective there, as always.